All right, welcome back, fellow jazz bums. Today, we have the video that many of you have been waiting for. We are going to dive into the new Strata-East reissue. We have Ched Tolliver and Kevin Gray here for us to get the story on. Before we do, remember to like and subscribe. Please drop a comment as well. And we also have the Jazz Bums Discord. We'll drop an invite link in the description below. And we live stream every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, so come and hang out with us there as well. All right, with that, I'm going to kick it over to Felipe to get us started.
Thank you, Mike. So today's the day, right? We are finally waiting for that, as you said. We have here Kevin Gray, master engineer from Coherent Audio, from Coherent Records. And it is our pleasure to have here Ched Tolliver, musician, composer, songwriter, producer, CEO of Strata-East Records in this current iteration existence. And Strata-East is an iconic, sought-after, so important, independent owned label, founded in 1961 by Ched Tolliver and Stanley Cowell. So, pleasure to have you guys here. Thank you so much for joining, and let's talk about this reissue campaign, story of the label, everything. So let's get started with Chris, and welcome to the channel. Thank you.
Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here, guys. So, Ched, I wanted to get started. I mean, we all know Strata-East. It's one of the most iconic kind of independent labels, like Felipe talked about. Can you kind of just talk about the legacy of, your father and Stanley Cowell's project that they started, and why they started this label, and what your goal with the reissue series is, and the legacy of the label, and all that sort of thing?
Sure. Nice to meet you, Chris. So it was basically Strata-East was two artists who found a way to get their music out there in a place that wasn't necessarily receptive for the type of thing that they wanted to do. And so it's really a great American story. They started, if you can't fit in, build it your own, right? Or anywhere really. And that's exactly what they did. They've primarily put the music out, or started the label so they could put out their own albums. And in the process of doing that, they found in the community that there were all these artists that were kind of in the same position that they were. And the doors were open for them to be able to come out and do their thing. And so, I think as far as the legacy of the label, it just sort of speaks to the communal aspect of people coming together and expressing themselves, in this wonderful music. And so I think the fans have really gravitated towards that, the people that love the music and the people that love jazz and our label, they love that idea of this music that really didn't fit into a particular paradigm. It wasn't Blue Note jazz. It wasn't anything of that at the moment. It was kind of its own thing because, we didn't fit into that mold. So the legacy is what the fans carry it, it's what they believe in it. It really rests on the wings of them. And as far as this new iteration of what we're doing now, we're just trying to honor the past, Thankfully, we still have my father. We lost Stanley several years ago. And the whole idea of this was primarily started talking to by speaking with Michael Kaskuna, who was a dear friend of my father, rest in peace. And we really batted this around for a long time. We saw what Joe Harley was doing, with Kevin, and that kind of led us to speaking to Joe. Michael put us in touch with Joe, and Joe wound up becoming a really good pal, and I just asked a ton of questions. How can we do this? How do you do this, really? What's the best way to do it? And Joe said, go talk to Kevin. I mean, in essence, right? I mean, he was, not exactly, but he gave us a lot of input, and then we came to Kevin. And so once we started putting those pieces together, we had to figure out what the blueprint was, and we kind of took it from there.
Yeah, so I mean, having Joe Harley and Kevin Gray involved in this process, and we've been fortunate to get a few of the promos, so we've been able to kind of experience the product itself, and I think the quality is what you would expect. I just want to kind of kick it over to Kevin to kind of talk about the the template that was kind of applied to this, and if you can just kind of speak to that a little bit.
Mhm.
Well, it's a great thing that they preserved the master tapes as well as they did. That's really the key to starting the whole thing. Without those, um, you're shooting blind, and to be able to have master tapes that sounded as great as those do was really a godsend. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been a great project, fun project to work on. I had heard Charles on several records as a sideman. I wasn't really familiar with his own recordings, and when I heard the Slugs, Volume 1, Volume 2 live set, I was blown away. I mean, that's just as good as it gets in jazz, as far as I'm concerned. And I also mentioned, Ched, I was talking with Mike a little before we started, and I was telling him that Stanley's album just blows me away. I mean, it's to me one of the finest piano recordings and
So I have
records.
a question
I've
for you,
ever
Ched.
heard.
Also, you mentioned your father. Did he have any participation? Was he involved in like listening to the records or any input on how they should be done, or how was his involvement with this? And I bet it probably was sort of emotional for him as well to see his records done at such a great level.
Yeah, Felipe. I mean, I think you kind of nailed it. It was it's been a great joy, I think, in his life to see that there is still a desire for this music, still an interest in what is his legacy. We're very fortunate because we have the founder. Not a lot of brands and labels that have been around for 50 years have the person that founded it. Still, and so he's really the foundation of the ethos and everything that we really need to go forward. Any questions we have, we just go straight to him, and he's been very active in the participation. He's been a great participant in this. He's not actively running the company, but he's always right there for us to whatever we need. I just make a phone call and I'm like, hey, how did you do this? Or, what's this all about? And so it's really wonderful. And I think he's just really happy and proud right now.
That's great. Yeah, that's excellent. I think the choices you made for the first releases are really interesting and cool because they're diverse. It kind of shows the diversity of the label, right? I mean, you've got the solo piano record and the Stanley Cowell record. That's great. I've got the Charles Rouse 2 is 1. I love this record, man. It's
it's good.
so great. So great. It's a little more, modern. I guess it's got like a electric bass and stuff on it, right? A little some funk to it. But then the cool thing about that one is it's almost like two different records. Like when you play side 1, it's a little more straight ahead ish, and then you get on side 2, and it's just kind of a bit out there, and it's really interesting.
But
how did y'all make the decisions on what you wanted to target for these first releases?
That's a great question. Well, everybody has their favorites. That's the one thing when we started doing our research, when I started listening and kind of just doing a deep dive into what the fans like. I mean, look, our fans, these connoisseurs, they're so knowledgeable and exigent, and just they're really pros of all this music. So everybody's got their tastes, and the one thing we knew we didn't want to do, we didn't want to just do the titles that may be the most popular. This is a multi-year deal that we have with Mack Avenue, and we're going to be releasing a lot of material, and so we wanted to do something diverse, as you said, so that we could give everybody a look. I mean, I almost look at it as I would say it's a collection. I want to say an opera or a 3-act play, but it is something in essence where we have these different facets of it, so everybody can get a little bit something different from everything. So we just took a look at what we had. We knew we had to represent our founders. We had to represent Charles. We had to represent Stanley, and choosing the 2 as 1 was kind of easy because Charles and Charlie were really close, and it's such a funky album. It's kind of jam bandy in a way. I mean, it kind of fits in. It's very modern still, and so that was very easy to do. And then the Pharoah Sanders is just, I mean, how iconic is he? You know, and him passing away somewhat recently was that was a no-brainer. We just wanted to really do that and honor them.
Yeah. Quick follow-up on that. I think all of those records really show the dedication the dedication that your father and Stanley had to the artists, right?
Yeah, because I mean, it was all about them. Yeah,
right. Good luck selling that Pharoah Sanders record, to Blue Note back in the day, right? Like that wasn't going to be a thing.
Well, in Blue Note is so iconic. They've laid the groundwork. I mean, for so much. Half the albums I listened to were Blue Note albums. Primarily the newer ones because Kevin has done such an amazing job, bringing them to life for us modern listeners and everything. But it's that was material that you may not have found there, and Strata-East just happened to be that home, so we can take care of that lane, which is awesome. We just wanted to. I'm sure my father would say he just wanted to create a place where listeners that maybe wanted to hear something slightly different, were able to.
Ched, you mentioned that this will be a multi-year endeavor. Have you thought about the kind of calendar distribution of it, like the number of titles per year that you're aiming for?
Yeah, sure, Mike. Look, it's gonna vary, but I think we're trying to do 2 drops of multiple titles a year. Maybe loosely around the record store day stuff. So, cool. Something in spring, something in winter, fall, winter, something like that. I think
that's great. I like the idea because I do feel like, as Chris said, the first batch is pretty diverse. So there's stuff for everybody. And everybody kind of gets a chance to go in and get what they'd like, as opposed to like just releasing one every month or something. Right. I like the idea that, everybody can kind of get something at once together.
And that's a great model. Blue Note does that, and there's these subscription things that are happening right now. And, just when we try to work out a strategy with Mack, that's kind of what we fell on at the moment. So, we'll give them something, let people wonder and wait and figure out what it is we're going to do next. And we hope to deliver stuff that the fans like.
Yeah. And I do feel like when I think about the artists that are on Strata-East, like it does seem like they're part of like an artist family, and they play on each other's records, and they also play on other labels' records of the time. And there's a lot of kind of crossover and kind of I wouldn't even say it's cross-pollination like of ideas. I would say that you can hear Cecil McBee, right? Cecil McBee on Live at Slugs, that's part of the quartet. Like, and you could hear him with Charles Tolliver's style, which is like I was thinking it's kind of like a post-bop style, but then you could hear him on his own records and with all different. So I just feel like it's cool to kind of explore, because this was kind of, they were open to like everybody's artistic expression, supporting each other, and I do feel like it elevates the music like across the board on the label as well as on other labels that are kind of their peers too. But for me, Strata-East does kind of like stand out when I think of like the Black Arts movement and the labels that kind of garnered around that. I do feel like Strata-East is really, just one of the breakout, things of that. So
it's very nice of you. I have to tell you, Mike, that's one of the things that I enjoy. If I remove myself from being a part of the organization, that I enjoy about it the most as well. Listening to Cecil McBee's Mutima, it's such a an avant-garde piece, and it's so not straight ahead. It was kind of like you just let this artist in and say, do whatever you'd like to do, and this incredible thing came out of it. It's amazing. It should be like that more, I think.
It's a very spontaneous, collaborative environment for sure. That's how it feels. So regarding the reissue campaign also, Ched, so now we're seeing it being realized, it's happening, right? So looking backwards, how long did it take to get here? How did you start this? okay, let's do it. So let's talk to Mack Avenue. Let's talk to Kevin. Let's get the tapes. Let's sign the papers. How was this? How long did it take? How was this process?
It took a while. I mean, it took probably about 18 months just to do the deal. You know, we as you know, these negotiations can take a really long time, and this one was not out of the ordinary in that sense. So it took us a minute
Ed
to
and I
get.
talked a lot over a long period of time.
Yeah, well, yeah, which was amazing because once you get that in place, you start going, well, how do you do this, right? And I was saying before how talking to Joe and Kevin. Joe introduced me to Kevin, and Kevin is just such an amazing guy. If you've ever sat with him in a room, you just know. I mean, he's just incredible and has been so inviting into this whole process. And anytime you're hanging out with a master of their craft, I mean, he's probably sick of me asking him questions, quite frankly.
No, not at all.
But that's it. But to answer your question, it's basically been how much can we learn during this process to make sure that we are authentic to the origins and the roots of what this means. I want to go back to the fans for a second because we know our fans are so discerning and they're so knowledgeable about this label, and about the music that we have to get it right. So we had to do a complete restoration of everything. That means not only getting the master tapes and making sure that those were in tip-top shape, checking them with Kevin to make sure they were in tip-top shape. Thankfully, they were. Going back to all the artwork, finding the purest form of photographs from contact sheets to you name it, to the album restorations, to creating the new gatefolds, trying to then bringing it into a modern, a new place, really, where's the intersection between, what the fans love about Strata-East and a new modern contemporary audience. That kind of probably was the most challenging thing because there's already a pedigree of legitimacy in a way with what Strata-East has done. So that's the good news because that's
Right.
cemented. But then you also have to be really true to that and figure out how do you now appeal to a new audience, and sort of reactivate the brand and the label. And so a lot of thought has been into that, it's been a wonderful process, it's taken a long time, but this is, working with the best people in the business is really the key thing, and getting advice from the best people in the business, working with Kevin, working with Joe, working with all the artists, RTI, the Stoughton, has totally blown us away with the work that they've done for us.
Yep.
And having Denny and his team over at Mack has been so crucial. They've turned out to be some, really fabulous partners for us. They're all in, and they've seen the vision. Being an independent label themselves, they really get it, and we feel really supported. So it's a really exciting time, guys. We really want to bring it to the fans and hope to deliver in a way that this will be seen as the definitive reissue series collection.
Well, I feel like you've completely accomplished that. I mean, from the copy I have here, it's what everybody, you checked all the boxes for jazz nerds.
Cool.
For the jazz, like, vinyl collecting nerds, you've definitely checked all the boxes, and we couldn't be happier with the way that y'all have done this. To your point, the legacy of the label is fully intact, I feel like, with these reissues versus, other projects that we've seen in the past where, you get a record that's a reissue of some record you're really excited about, and it's like, maybe not the best mastering, maybe not the best pressing, it just kind of sucks, So
yeah, we don't want that. I mean, that was the last thing. That's why we had. It's so important to part of the reason why it's taken such a long time is that getting it right, you have to really look at every single detail, because there's always going to be people that are going to, you can't escape critiques, but if we put this forth and doing the very best that we can, we know that we've done a good thing, and it's really nice to hear that you're enjoying it so far.
Yeah, and I will say I think it's great that you're tying a piece to Record Store Day, because I do feel like you participating in Record Store Day, I feel like supports local shops, and I just feel like that's a good thing that people are going to line up to get that Pharoah Sanders release. It is a limited, and I believe if the website's correct, it will only be available through Record Store Day. And so I feel like that's going to help encourage people to get out and make a day of it and have fun with it, and bring some extra dollars to the record store. So I just feel like that was a really kind of nice tie-in.
I hope so. Let's see what we hope the appetite. We hope it flies off the shelves. We hope the appetite is such that it can compel us to do more in the future. It's such a wonderful title, and nobody has ever heard it this way. I mean, when we were sitting in Coherent Audio, we were listening to this going, wow, I don't think I've heard it this way before. I certainly haven't.
Yeah.
Another shout out would be to Obie O'Brien, who recorded a lot of them. He's a great recording engineer. I've done other work of his in the past, and he was a great choice.
I do have original pressings. Actually, I was listening to my Live at Slugs Volume 1, and it's a promo. So I have a promo from you, and now I have an old promo that I picked up somewhere.
Nice.
But anyway, I was listening to it, and it sounds like the production quality, like Kevin said, the recording quality, the original presses, the original jackets, all that stuff, Strata-East did a really good job with. I mean, those are really good sounding records to start with. So I feel like, just shout out to your father and Stanley Cowell for getting it done and doing it really well, because I'm sure it's a tough, just reissuing this, I'm sure it's been really difficult to learn about this. To be the musician putting the artist in the studio, I'm sure is also, they're incredible producers as well. So
Thank you. That's really nice of you. I appreciate that. I want to say, very nice sweatshirt, by the way. I just noticed that you're wearing a cool thing there, so that's awesome.
Yeah. And it speaks to the quality that you're saying. I mean, the sound, it's really good, Kevin. I was commenting with Mike and Chris before we started, Ched, especially this record here, the Pharoah Sanders, right? First of all, the photographic work that was done for the cover, black and white, is really sharp. It doesn't look like a modern reissue, like blurred, a great text here. Liner notes by Harmony Holiday. It's terrific what she wrote here.
Oh, she's a marvelous poet, yeah.
Right, yeah. And sonically, yeah. And this record has so much stuff going on, right? There's just so much. A lot of people playing simultaneously, fast, slow, voices, and everything came across enveloping, but at the same time so separate, clear, concise. You can pinpoint things in the room, and hear things very clearly. So yeah, kudos to what you guys achieved with that, especially Kevin. So yeah.
Thank you. By the way, that was a challenge because side one was like 28 minutes, right, Ched?
I was going to say it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, you learn a lot about how guys fit this stuff on LPs when you're working.
That's interesting. I didn't know it was that long. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because usually want to be like 16, 18 minutes, right, or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Ideally.
How cool! I always wonder how do you come to a bookend on something like that? Like once you're 20 minutes in, I mean, you can literally just keep going, right? It's like,
well, there's plenty of albums out there where they did and they just cut it in half, right? Like,
right, yeah.
Right.
Part 1, part 2, and you're like, okay, that's kind of weird. Here's the question we've gotten the most, I think, since this has been announced, and it's around the master tapes and where they came from and all that sort of thing. So the common knowledge of Strata-East forever has been that, your father and Stanley gave the tapes to the artists, and that was kind of the end of it, and that's why there hasn't been any reissues and all this sort of thing. That's kind of the mythos around Strata-East. Can you talk about how you have access to the tapes, and if was that really true? Like just kind of how that whole process worked back in the day?
It wasn't entirely true. I mean, this has been part of I read the same things, and so it's kind of fun to read. There's so much folklore out there and legend, and the mysteriousness is not a terrible thing always. But to try to answer it, not all the artists took their tapes.
Hmm.
They left them with the label, like a lot of artists will do. And so, you know, we've had them, you know, and so, you know, if we didn't, you know, we would reach out to the artist and engage them, and you know, and if they were in good shape, you know, we utilized them.
Okay, cool. Well, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, there's been so much talk about that. It's kind of hilarious.
I know. It's really, well, people want to know. I mean, that's the good news. I want to know too. I would want to know too, you know, you know, you read it and sometimes you want to comment being a part of it. You want to, but now we can officially, you know, set the record straight, you know, where we can, you know, and so, yeah.
Another question that has come up is the previous reissues through like Pure Pleasure and Peavine. There's questions about like the source material that they used for those, but I kind of have a more general question in terms of did you engage with them? You know, are those legitimate, you know, reissues? I think the Pure Pleasures are definitely, but
the Pure Pleasures are, yeah, for sure, Mike. Okay. Some of them are not legitimate. You know, we have, as you can imagine, with a label like ours, we have a lot of business affairs and legal things that go on with unscrupulous practices with things that are released not necessarily with our permission, and so that's something we deal with a lot. We wouldn't be the only label to ever deal with that, but it's certainly something that we've been fending off a lot and continue to. What I can tell you is that this is the first reissue by Strata-East that's ever been from the master tapes, except for the very first OG releases. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. You know, we will definitely at a later point probably make videos. We'll definitely talk about this on the live stream, but people will get these. We'll talk about our opinions, compare them to the originals and the Pure Pleasures and all that stuff. So all of that conversation is going to happen. I think, you know, for us, it's just a little too early to kind of give our opinions. But I will say that from what I've heard, these sound very good. And yeah, I mean, they're fantastic. And the originals sound really good. These sound really good. I think people are going to be very happy with it.
Thank you. We're very happy with how it turned out. You know, when we have done our own shootouts, we find Kevin's to be far superior than what was originally released, you know, over 50 years ago. And so we're very, very pleased with how these have turned out. We're very excited for people to hear this.
So a question for Kevin now. Kevin, you've been doing so much Blue Note, right? That's your, you probably speak, yeah. How was sonically for you to deal with the Strata-East material, you know, in terms of like dealing with the tapes directly, the sound, any different approach or just the same to you? How did it feel to you working with Strata-East material?
The same but different. I mean, what I mean by that is you know, every record's a little bit different. You know, I do so much jazz that's not Rudy Van Gelder, so this would fall more into that genre because you know, I know Rudy like the back of my hand, and no, they don't sound like a Rudy recording, but they sound great. And like I said, Obie O'Brien did some of them. Did he do the live at Slugs? Was that Obie?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, that to me is one of my favorite now live albums. It sounds so good, and the music is so good. So I don't know. Did I answer your question, Felipe?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Did you have to make any moves on the console?
Well, yeah, no, a few. We made a few changes from track to track and things like that. Yeah. Not so much on that record because it was live and it was all, you know, pretty much recorded over 2 days or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was very consistent. But on some of the others, yeah, we made a few moves from track to track.
But you didn't have to bake tapes or anything like that, right?
Not on those, because those were all kind of before the whole baking problem started. I think they were mostly on Scotch 206, which was a really good formulation. I mean, it holds up well.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. We'll see on the later ones. We might have to bake some tapes, but that's not a big deal. I just had to
You're
make-
like the tape baking expert by now, Kevin.
Boy, I have probably baked as many tapes as anybody out there. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You just like put them in a toaster oven next to your.
Yeah. I have a convection oven dedicated to baking. Well, it's technically dehydrating tapes. I mean, that's what it is. It's a dehydrator. But, yeah.
That makes sense. So you're making cookies in it when you're not.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing that's kind of cool, Ched, in like in my jazz journey specifically, Strata-East is just hits like this perfect place that I've come to, right? Like everybody kind of starts with like 50s Blue Note stuff and, you know, does whatever. But like the early 70s, you know, just the decade of the 70s is just my favorite jazz. I mean, between Strata and then like the stuff Black Jazz put out, you know, the Black Jazz label, just some of my favorite stuff. So I cannot wait to see what else y'all are putting out. I'm gonna be one of the guys waiting in line to pick up pretty much every single one of them for sure.
I can't wait either, Ched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. That is what a nice thing to say. You know, that time period is such an interesting time period. I mean, there was so much going on in America. You know, post civil rights movement and still in the civil rights movement, really. And so it's wonderful that resonates. You know, the things that these guys were able to do with a label like Strata-East, that kind of output. I think it's really special. It's just that human communication. You know, there was nobody telling them what to do. You know, it was just I'm so honored that you know, that Charles and Stanley created a vehicle where people could be, you know, completely unencumbered with their artistry and just release a. That's great to hear that's very enjoyable for you.
Yeah, you didn't have to deal with an executive at one of the big labels telling you what you could and couldn't do.
Right.
That's a nice thing, right? That's right, Kevin, totally.
Yeah, they weren't making you put like a Beatles cover on there, you know.
Which is not a terrible thing. I mean, it's like, you know, right? But no, and yeah, I know what you mean, though. I mean, to the point of an executive or an A&R person sort of controlling the session in that way. No, that wasn't something that happened at Strata-East.
I did want to just touch on some of the writers that have worked on the project. So we mentioned Harmony Holiday. She wrote the Pharoah Sanders liner notes. We also have Sid Schwartz, who did Charles Rouse's liner notes. Marcus J. Moore did the Live at Slugs, and then Nat Chinen did the Stanley Cowell. And I know that there was a Zoom call with, I think, all four of them. Has that been made available? If it has been, we'll link it.
Each one of those, they made them available to their subscribers on Substack. So if you go to Sid Schwartz Substack, Nate Chinen Substack, you can watch it.
All right, so we'll put their information in the description below if you guys want to go and check that out. That was a good talk.
Yeah. Can I just that was really incredible having them there. I like sitting with you guys who are just, you know, the best kind of at what you do. Having these writers there talk about, you know, what they do, you know, was really remarkable. I mean, there's such a symbiotic relationship between, you know, the written word and the music, you know, in these beautiful LPs and this vinyl. So it's getting to know them in that way and what it is they do has been really, really fun. I mean, aside from the incredible work that they gave us, you know, they're amazing. That was really great. I definitely would recommend anybody that can, you know, check out the Substack stuff to check out that interview.
Yeah, for sure. I think liner notes by writers like them just makes it so much richer.
Yeah,
because usually when you have reissues campaigns, always about how does this sound, how is this cover, how is this. They put so much, first of all, poetry on the way they write, just beauty, but also contextualizing things socially, historically, artistically. I think that is just such a great add-on that you rarely see in reissue campaigns.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Blue Note's been doing some of the same stuff, like the Tone Poets. They've done some inserts and stuff, and it's really, I mean, it's great to read like original liner notes from like 1957. You know, it's really cool to see that context. But then to have a modern person again, contextualize the record for you. I think it's going to be really neat for people. Hopefully the people that pick up like the Pharoah Sanders, right? Like at Record Store Day. I mean, there's going to be folks that aren't into jazz and they just see that and they buy it, and it's going to be an interesting experience for them. And I think that, those writers can really help kind of set the stage for what they're listening to, which is really cool.
I hope so. I mean, that's one of the things I love about this resurgence of vinyl and LPs that we've been experiencing. It's so nice. It takes so many people to make something like this happen. I'm like one of those guys that completely geek out on who is the engineer, who is the mastering engineer, where was it recorded, who are the songwriters, all this stuff. I love that. So having an opportunity to read it and then have a literary person contextualize it is really the best overall experience for me while I'm listening to my favorite album. Like I want to just sit back with a cup of coffee and or a glass of wine and read this while I'm listening. It's really that to me is just enveloping. I love it.
That's something you never got with a compact disc. It was too small. That's something I love about LPs as far as being able to read the liner notes and everything. It's great.
But we love the compact disc too, because this is coming out on CD, right? That's correct.
Yeah.
And you guys,
those guys will not get the same experience as those who buy the LP, though.
They won't. That's true.
This was shared with me. It's a CD of the. It's a comp, basically, for Record Store Day.
Yeah.
Is this going to be in Record Store Days? Is this going to be available to the public?
It is going to be available as a sampler. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah,
and there's fantastic. How do you like the packaging and have you listened to it yet?
Chris, you've listened to it, right?
Yeah, it sounds awesome, man. It was really, really cool. Loved it. So I didn't know if it was just a promo thing or if it was going to be available. So that's excellent. I'm glad to hear that. That's going to be available to folks.
I mean, it's in the spirit of the legacy. Begins that we want to. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, we're purists at heart, and we want there's nothing like listening to it on vinyl, but we also know there's a modern audience that a lot of people really wanted to be able to stream this stuff, and a lot of times the only place you could find it was on YouTube. Yep. And not great quality at that. So we're very happy as that part of the portfolio, if you will, being able to offer that to fans so that they can stream it if they don't have that, their record player right there at the moment.
I was just going to say, in many ways, that's like a bigger step to digitize it in that type of way and get it out there forever, like in that realm. I feel like it is a huge thing that should happen, and that music deserves to be out there in that type of format. That I think is that is fantastic, because I stream. I'm a crazy record collector, but I stream more than I listen to records. I'm always sampling, listening to stuff. So having that available is going to be absolutely great.
Yeah,
it's part of it. We can't escape it. I mean, look, I put on the record when I want to listen to things, but when you're on the go and it's just part of life, it's just how it goes. It's so at the very least, if you listen to whether it's Spotify, Apple, or Tidal or Qobuz, if you want the high res stuff, you can have access to this now. So we're thank you. That was a big endeavor putting that together as well. So I'm happy that people have that.
Great. So they will be available all those streaming services. Yeah,
totally. It's already available now. Felipe and those albums will be available very soon. Coming in April. So it's very exciting.
Yeah.
That I did not realize that you couldn't stream any of this stuff until we interviewed Michael Fremer, a few weeks ago, and I wanted to prepare, so I wanted to listen to them all, and they weren't there. I was like, oh wow. So yeah, I did the YouTube thing, right? And I was like, man, this sounds like crap, but I kind of get the idea of how awesome this record is. I can't wait for the vinyl to come out, and then to hear that y'all are going to have a bunch of stuff on streaming is really, really exciting. So.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, my son will listen to that. If I can't get to Kevin's studio that day and have him, in his crazy schedule and try to listen to it through his monitors, it'll be the vinyl. But my son will listen to it on his iPhone.
And then, I mean, we should also just discuss maybe like the artwork piece of it. There is a variety of style on it. I mean, the Musa by Stanley Cowell is, I mean, I have to say, this is when I was listening to this, just the whole package, the sound of it compared to when I was streaming it and sampling it. I mean, it is definitely a next level experience. And this is such a beautiful well done. I mean, this solo piano record is just fantastic.
Oh,
So
thank you so much. Yeah,
absolutely beautiful. And he's great. I mean, he's great on it. He's 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 a master on it. There's
no,
like
he is. He's a legendary figure. He's a master of his craft. He's I'm really excited for people, not only fans of jazz, to experience this album like they've never heard it before. But I'm also excited for folks that don't necessarily listen to jazz. Like I'm very curious to see how this album can cross over into some different spaces. It's such a gorgeous album to listen to. Kevin and I were talking a lot about this as he was cutting it, just going, wow, there's something really special about this.
Absolutely.
When you hear it coming off those tapes and going through, Kevin's
Mhm.
all analog, class A, gear, you just experience it in a way that's different. It's like being in the room, right, guys? It's like you're sitting at the piano next to Stanley while he was doing it.
Well, I don't know. I haven't been to Kevin's room yet, so I don't know.
You're going to hear it on the vinyl. Yeah,
yeah,
it comes across on the vinyl. Like that's
it does, for sure.
Yeah, and
I imagine listening to the master tape on Kevin's system's got to be a whole otherworldly experience.
oh god, it's amazing. It's heavenly. And that with the packaging. Thank you very much. That was, we took a great deal of care also with putting that together. That was a complete restorative process. Just going back to the origins for the sources to make sure, because I think, as one of you guys said before, there's been a lot of reissues where it was blurry, it was this, it was that. We didn't want to do that.
Colors faded. Yeah.
got a big old hype sticker. Everybody loves a good hype sticker. So got the hype sticker.
That was Joe. Joe was like, you got to have the hype stickers, So we told Matt, guys, please, we have to have the hype stickers.
Well, whoever designed those, you should tell them they did an excellent job, because that's maybe the coolest hype stickers I've ever seen. I mean, with like the picture kind of in the background and just all the detail. Yeah.
It's
that's great. That's great.
And
yeah, Ken Niles, we had a wonderful designer who helped us with putting together, those gatefolds, and it's really an all hands-on process. It takes a village, literally. That's been one of the most fun things, guys, about this, is all the different crafts that are involved in this, from the artists to the writers. Obviously the artists, that's the people that are there, but it's also all the folks that are behind that don't necessarily get the credit, and we want to elevate everybody.
Yeah, I mean, now that you mention it, it's worth pointing out, like, obviously, like, you're independent, Kevin's independent, RTI's independent, like, everyone involved in the process here, for the most part, is kind of doing it, independently. So it's I don't know, it's just a great thing. It's a great label. It's a great process. I did want to mention the price point. So just so people have the information, again, the Faro Center is going to be Record Store Day only on LP. Then on April 25th, the CD of the Faro Sanders, as well as the CDs of the other and the LPs of the other, will be available. I believe those are $35. Is that correct? Except for Live at Slugs, because it's a double LP, which it puts it up a little bit higher than that, right?
Yeah, it puts it a little bit higher, and we wanted to be competitive. There's a lot of competition in this market, and the prices are pretty high on some of them, and so I think the idea was to make it affordable for people. I mean, it's already, the wonderful thing already is that you're going to get to have something that you may not have been able to purchase. Most of us can't, on eBay in some cases, hundreds of dollars, close to $1,000 for some of these titles. Yeah. And now you're actually going to get the best funding it's ever been for the great old price of $34.99 or $45. So it's a really great deal. Yeah,
it is.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's an excellent price point. We're really excited to see that. I mean, yeah, again, you're just kind of hitting every single checkbox off perfect. Like, we couldn't be more. So I gotta tell you, we have a Discord server. We've been talking about this series for like a year. Right, and then people are like, "It's never gonna happen," They're just like, we don't believe it. It's never gonna happen, because people are just been so excited, and then to see, the all of our jazz record nerd dreams come true with Kevin and RTI and Stoughton and From the Tapes and a decent price and all that's just anyway, it's exciting.
Thanks, man. I want people to know we've been listening. Like that's that's like the major thing. We took a good solid few years just going, what is it that you guys want? How do we make this? How do we do this right? How do we make it so that you walk away from this happy? And so, I really hope it comes across like that, because we spared no expense, and we spared no time, quite frankly, on trying to put this together in the right way, so it's received the way we hope it will be.
So if people want to pre-order it, you can pre-order through Mack Avenue. Are there any other distributors that people, if they have preferences, that they can use, like Music Direct or Acoustic Sounds?
Those channels, we'll have more information on that, but primarily the pre-orders will be through Mack, and
Okay.
and also through our own Strata-East West website, but it'll be directed from the surex.com website, where we'll be doing some D2C stuff there too as well. Strata-East West being the administrative partner of Strata-East right now, so just to tease a little bit of a future.
Oh,
Yeah, so we'll drop the links to Mack Avenue as well. So go over there. Also explore their other catalog. They have a lot of great artists on Mack Avenue. So while you're picking up some Strata-East, pick up some of their stuff too.
So Ched, one more question for you. Are you like full-time now dealing with Strata-East, or still doing your work as composer, writing for movies? How is your other side of your life now going on?
Not so much of the latter of the stuff, but it's pretty full on and full time. But it deserves and needs that kind of dedication, and this is something that I've jumped into. I have some amazing partners. David Yorkin is my partner in this adventure, and a gentleman named Bernie Friedman, and just together with some of these great guys, where it's pretty full on, and it needs to be. We're really trying to keep our eye, and we're laser focused on everything that's going on, and so is Mack Avenue. So yeah, it's a joy. I couldn't be happier. Continuing my father's legacy, and trying to make it right for you guys.
Yeah, Mack Avenue, one of the great, one of the great independent jazz labels out there. They've been doing so much for jazz, raising so many artists, and currently, right, Christian McBride, Julian Lush, Cecile McLuhan Salvan, and so many others. It's terrific work what they do, and now joining Strata-East.
This is an amazing thing. I know. Look, Denny Stillwell is one of the great helmers of a label that I've ever seen. He's kept that label going for 20 plus years. He's brought us some great music. It's been recognized, thankfully, by the Grammy Awards, and he's just a wonderful individual. We feel very proud to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with him and his organization, as they move forward too into a new chapter with them in Acceleration Music Partners right now. So it's a really exciting time in general. Everybody's very excited about this. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, any other questions for Ched or Kevin?
I don't think so. I just really appreciate you guys' time, and this project's amazing. Can't wait to see what comes next.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for checking in here. And we would love to have you guys back. Kevin, always. And Ched, if you want to come check in, talk about upcoming releases, feel free to reach out. We would love to have you back. Felipe, any last words?
I think, thank you so much, guys, for joining again. Thank you so much, Ched, for being so kind and, sending some copies for us to check and evaluate. Kevin, for always being one of the nicest person we deal daily in the industry. I mean, always so direct, so approachable. And yeah, that was a thrill, and I think people are going to be quite happy with everything that's coming out. We are, and others that have already listened to it. And I think just one last question, Ched, just to wrap up. After doing all this, when you at the end of the day, you just sit and have this thing, what do you think about it? How that is what comes as a highlight to you after all this done, looking back at the label, your work, your father, what comes across your mind the most often?
Well, I mean, it's almost like pinching myself sometimes in the sense that I'm getting to work with my with people that I highly respect, people that are at the top of their craft, people like Kevin. You know, it's you know, and it's really the best job to be able to do this. You know, there's nothing better than getting to learn, and there's so much to learn. You know, when you're sitting next to people that are just so involved and so great at what they do, quite frankly, you know, and the best at what they do. And, you know, being able to honor, you know, these people that have paved the way for us, you know, it's you know, we don't take it lightly. This is you know, this type of, this restoration and putting these things together has, it's been done, and the path has been laid in a lot of ways by Michael Kaskuna, you know, Joe Harley now, you know, Kevin Gray, you know, and we just want to add a small piece to that if we can, with something that's very meaningful to people. So it's when I sit back, I'm very happy with the work that we've done thus far. We have a lot of work to do. You know, we're going to be doing a lot of these, so every time we do is a chance to keep getting it better and better. And we're just very excited about this process. You know, we have a lot of music for you guys. You know, it's coming. It's
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping by. And yes, everyone watching, please drop a comment. Remember to like and subscribe. Please share this, get the word out. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Cool.
Thank you so much.